Oh, you want to hear what happened to Sten Trapson after the first part? Let's do it. Let's go! I am Sacred with Sacred Arb Gaming. Make sure you watch part 1 first before you watch this one, or else it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. But long story short, created a character for the solo Dragonbane campaign, rolled them up randomly. This isn't like a playthrough. This isn't like a live play or anything like that because it's already happened. I feel like it's worth reviewing because it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of cool stuff that came out of it. And I may take like one of the stories, one of the additional adventures or quests in the other book, and then do a live play of that. I feel like this will get everyone up to speed for what the hell happened with this random guy, and then I can continue on, potentially, if there's interest in that. So Sten's main thing in the first section was finding the orc named Gorham. This is the Cultist Warren. This should be more of a summary and a recap, hitting the high notes, less so of a breakdown of every single little thing that took place. And Gopher Stonegaze, give us that sweet, sweet intro.
My gaze is fixed upon the cultists' subterranean outpost. There find ye Ariok, the devotee of demons, who wears the Worldbreaker Shard as a medallion. Wrest it from them, so we may remake its power for good.
So things are going to start off with a mostly abandoned outpost. Surprise, there's cultists. There's a fight that breaks out, but between Sten and Gorham, they deal with them. There's one mage in that group that's doing like dark magic that gives them some trouble, but yeah, take care of him too. After dealing with them, they do find a secret passage. That's through a random roll. That's right with those solo rules. Through that secret passage, there's like magma flowing around it. From there, they enter the Stone Maw. This really cool looking cave that is in fact Stone Maw-like. So it does look like a big mouth. They do, of course, fail a stealth check, as they do throughout all of this session. And as there's this like three-way dance with this cultist, again, through random rolls on the tables, it comes up that Sten's tattoo, and I guess that cultist seems to know a little something about it. And the cultist pretty much blows up Sten's spot almost immediately. It's not even one session later and is already in like a weird spot. So now they're in this weird Mexican standoff, and Gorham is just kind of like, whatever, I'm leaving, you guys do your own thing, I'm out. So that leaves Sten and the cultist to fight, but inevitably Gorham gets pulled into it by the cultist. The cultist ends up like shooting a magic blast at him. So next thing you know, Gorham's in the fight, and there's this like, interesting fight going. It's really, Sten and Gorham are still working on the same side, but there's a little bit of distrust there now. And then by the end of it, of course, wouldn't you know it, Sten, he takes that opportunity and he's like, you know what? He didn't mean it like maliciously, but he just saw an opportunity. He didn't want things to get any more complicated. Gorham he's tired after that battle. Let me just tie him up right here, and then I'll figure things out later. But of course, things do not go well for Sten. He ends up rolling a demon. He rolls a demon, so he gets tied up. And now Gorham has Sten. How embarrassing. And this is going to be one of the random sections for the solo adventure, and it just felt right for Gorham. I don't think I actually just like made the decision on any of the locations. I think they all were random. With that said, Gorham, it ends up being an orc encampment, so in my mind, that's then tied to, he's got him tied up, he's probably bringing him to allies of his. And when he does that, naturally the elders at this orc encampment have decided that Sten needs to face judgment the old-fashioned orc way. It's gonna be like a trial by combat type situation. There's like an arena, and Sten gets thrown in there regardless of whatever nonsense he's saying. He is forced to explain himself, and he does tell the truth of the situation. You do see the elders kind of like look at each other like, oh no, this Kulga orc shaman, do they know? Is this something in their background, their history? It's kind of hinted towards, We don't know. I don't even know, because it hasn't been fleshed out yet, and that's okay. So after this discussion, the council, or council of elders, they still decide that he is going to face their champion. He faces him 1v1. Not good. So this is actually a super awesome, dramatic back and forth. I had a lot of fun with this fight. I definitely did have to like push rolls for Sten, and I mean, if he was getting to the point where almost all of his stats were pushed at that point. So things were not looking good, but he did hit a dragon at the right moment towards the end. And this orc champion, he's like a dual wielding guy. He's pretty big. He's got armor. He's doing all these crazy attacks, and Sten just keeps, deflecting and dodging until eventually he sees an opening, happens to be on the dragon, ends up taking him down, and this champion kind of just drops to his knees. The council then demands that, per the orc trial by combat, that he finishes off their champion. And he says no, and he drops his axe as the champion just kind of stays there. His head was probably high, but he basically stayed on his knees waiting his fate. He knew this was normal. But Sten refuses, and he humbly speaks to the council and pleads his case. The council of elders, they speak back and forth, the little rubble. And then eventually one of them stands and decides the orc law has decided that because you can win in a fight, you are telling the truth and we will let you go. And as Sten goes to pick up his axe and leave, the orc champion is just kind of like just super dramatic, like, wait. He's like, you must finish me. I owe you my life. And Sten is like, if your life is mine, why don't you come with me and help me? He introduces himself as Karathu, and he thinks about it long and hard, feels a little wrong, but he's like, okay, I agree. Let's do the damn thing. He then introduces a orc shaman by the name of Bula. He ended up getting a dragon on this roll to persuade him, so he got a little something extra. There was no magic user, and I kind of wanted to dabble in the magics a bit, so this ended up pulling in a orc shaman as well. The three of them go back to Gorham, and they are like, are you also going to join us? He felt a little responsible because Sten did rescue him, even though he tried to capture him. He thinks about it, and then he's like, yeah, all right, I will go too. Next, we go to the Throat of Decay. This place was neat. It mainly was kind of skill checks, nothing that really added to the story that much. Sten was able to lead them through this like really misty, confusing area as magma is flowing, essentially. The place is falling apart, magma's flowing, they're getting magma and rocks on them or whatever. And then Bula, she is able to heal them after they leave. That's really all there's worth mentioning there. Number 4, Fool's Crossing. There was a neat little scene here, and there was pretty much like a faction of orcs that are besieging the cultists, so to speak. So now we're really kind of leaning into pulling this orc and cultist war a little bit. It just kind of naturally happened in the story. And the term Fool's Crossing, that is for a reason. So there's like this bridge, and the cultists are, they're firing arrows and magic and stuff. So the orcs, they're kind of just throwing themselves across this bridge just to get across and kind of throwing their lives away a little bit. Sten, however, with some time under a lord, he kind of comes up with this idea. Sten's got a shield. I think Gorham also had a shield at this time, so they were going to kind of get in front, protect Bula, who is definitely more on the squishy side, and then Karathu, he's pretty heavily armored. They were going to make sure they were going to get Bula close enough, and then once she was close enough, she just unloaded this unsnare spell to basically take a lot of the cultists that were annoying. They were really annoying on the bridge, and she ensnares a lot of them, made sure we powered it up so it was like maxed out. She ensnares a bunch of them, and I mean, it was kind of like a wrap after that, because then all of the orcs that were unable to get across, the floodgates just opened up, and then it was just slaughter as they're all just tied up by these vines and stuff. And the orcs were appreciative. Next, we go to the Shadowed Courtyard. There's more sneaking and more cultists, but you got big boys with big armor. They suck at sneaking. I don't know why I continued to do it, but I mean, it felt silly not to. Got caught. ended up beating up a bunch of cultists, tried to intimidate the last one. The last one was not really willing to be intimidated. It's more fighting. It was cool. There's this big, like, giant corpse. When I say giant, we're not talking like D&D giant, but like it was pretty hefty. It was a big boy. So they were just kind of like, we are hurting after everything we've been through. Let's leave and come back. Between that and the altar, they're just like, yeah, no, we're not playing that game. She pulls some vines to hold it down, so just in case. And they're like, yeah, let's get the hell out of here and heal up. Get to a safe place, and then they return, and now they're in the Ratways. They decide, instead of dealing with that corpse, I guess there was also like a well that they could travel down that would kind of lead to the same place. They're trying to travel down this well, and inevitably they all fall. As they're falling, there's these like strange voices and stuff that they're hearing, and it's trying to like confuse them. Sten's able to kind of, you know, anyone who is getting tempted by it, kind of snap them out of it. Let's get the hell out of here. The threat for this was magma. So magma hit before, magma's hitting again. It's threat time, especially with that additional travel they did. Sten gets hit pretty hard by the magma. The armor did help. That armor does have some magical properties, or at least it's kind of assumed. So that's the explanation there. And then we get to the ritual chamber. This is where all the meat and potatoes is for this, and it's 7. I ended up deciding that there's a ritual that's going on here. There are 3 cultists, and they have 9 rounds where they are going to complete this ritual. We have to stop them before they complete this ritual. We don't know what it is, but we know it ain't good. It is a little foggy in there too, and it's kind of like, almost imagine like a Lord of the Rings at the end situation. Spoiler! Where there's kind of like an opening, and then below that is like lava. So there's almost like this big circle area that's almost like floating above the lava with like one path that gets to it. Their plan, which is a great plan, who doesn't want to do this in every game ever? Spartan kick them into the lava. Problem being, they need to sneak over there and do it. And they're great at sneaking. They decide that Gorum and Bula are the sneakiest because they've got the least armor, so the least negatives. So they are going to attempt to do this. It's quite the risk. So at the same time, the plan is for almost like Ghost Recon style, where they shoot multiple targets at the same time, but with Spartan kicks. They're gonna, all right, 1, 2, 3, and they're both gonna get kicked into the lava. That'll leave them with 1 cultist, which is not too bad. But of course, not all plans go according to plan. Gorum is able to take care of his. Bula, whenever she goes to kick her cultist, the ground rumbles. There was a demon that was rolled. The ground rumbles a little bit, and she ends up slipping, and she is now holding on to the end, or like the edge, right? So it's kind of, it kind of developed throughout this session, which was obviously a lot longer than how quickly I'm going through it, but Karathu and Bula are very close. They're very close orcs, 1 male, 1 female, but they seem to be very close and care about each other. So Karathu freaks out, and he sprints down this area with an awesome war cry, and then just poof, sends that cultist flying that then is trying to, initially startled, trying to get Bula to kick her in the lava like she tried to do to him. Instead, he went flying. Bing! So that's 2 cultists down, 1 still left. So now Sten, he's now making his way down the bridge portion of this lava opening area. He's still running down. Karathu's down there, Gorum is down there, and Bula is dangling. And then this is where they find out that the main cultist that they were looking for, the name of Ariok, that has the pendant that they're looking for, he is there, and he's the last one left, of course. They strategically made sure they saved him for last because they need the pendant. If they kick him in the lava, they lose the pendant. All this is going on as he's still trying to keep this ritual going, but Ariok, he's no slouch. So he's doing the Doctor Strange things as Bula is dangling. And he ends up casting this defensive spell where Gorum and Karathu are kind of struggling to get through his defenses. Sten's still sprinting, and Ariok just has this defensive ward up, as he approaches Bula, and he looks down at her, as one does, and he puts his foot right on her face. And, she's struggling, and he just looks down at her and he says, "You cannot stop what is coming." Poof, and kicks her right in the face, or maybe more of like a push. And she then goes down into the lava. And Karathu is, he's a big beefy boy. He's pissed. He's freaking out. Gorham also not happy, but not as dramatic as Karathu is. So he's just letting this flurry loose as he's deflecting a lot of these physical attacks. But once Sten gets over there, now things are a little bit more tricky for Ariok, as now he's got enemies on all around him. He's a powerful caster, but this is a bit much for him to handle. So Ariok, although holding his own, the occasional dark magic blast, Sten, he got a hit on him that kind of weakened him a little bit. Finally, Karathu got a hit on him. I don't think Gorham actually did any damage to him, but he kept him busy. But he was still creating space. He was holding his own, but they were at least they were definitely bringing him down for sure. And then of course it gets to this point where Sten has an awesome axe attack on him, and Ariok is now close to the lava. Karathu sees red, and Gorham sees Karathu seeing red. And Gorham is no stereotypical orc that's just all brawn, no brains. He's thinking. He's definitely thinking. And he knows that they need the pendant, and he knows that Karathu is gonna try and bing, to Ariok as well. So he runs over there as Karathu is also running over there. And this super dramatic moment, which I thought it was pretty cool, about as dramatic as solo play can get. Karathu runs over, gives him a tackle. Gorham dives and he grabs the pendant and rips it off his neck at the last second. And now he's starting to slip, but Sten now is basically like, if we weren't good before, we're good, because I made sure I'm saving you in this moment. It wasn't quite as dramatic as Bula dangling, but he's and he grabbed his arm. Actually very similar to the tattoo. that is cool now I think about it. With the tattooed arm, of course. With the tattooed arm, kind of grabs him like that and pulls him back. Ariok, he is still hanging. He's not he didn't go flying. He's still dangling on the side, and he's got a neat little monologue that I want to make sure I grab. As Ariok is dangling, he's just kind of looking up at them, still defiant in a sense. "You have no idea what you're dealing with. I am one of the head cultists of the demon lord or whatever. The seas will run red, and I will do this, and I will do that, and this is what I am, and you are nothing, and this is what I will be, and you can't stop it. That is what I am," more or less. And then Sten looks down at him and then does the same thing to him that he did to Bula, and as he's telling him all the things that he is, Sten just says, "No, you're ash." Poof! Kicks him down into the lava. Die hard. But it's not even over, because, man, I said I wouldn't drag it out. A demon has appeared. Karathu is still calling out for Bula, looking down into the lava, kind of in disbelief, as this demon is now appearing through this hellish doom portal, essentially. You just see this large clawed arm just coming out, grabs the pedestal, crushing it a little bit, and also kind of has a scorpion tail. I think this was a random demon rolled in the book. There's a demon table. So now they are running because they're after everything we've been through, we are not equipped to deal with this demon with a scorpion tail. So they run. Of course, Gorham, who has the shard, things are starting to fall apart because that's what happens, I guess. The rocks are crumbling, and as he's kind of falling over and catching himself, he drops the shard, the pendant. Again, interesting back and forth between him and Sten. He feels compelled to find this is the whole reason he's there, so he continues to look for it. But the time it takes him to look for it is a little too long, and then he gets hit with the scorpion tail, and it is like paralyzing. So he gets stung, grabs it, and then he just drops. As the demon is moving in on them, Sten grabs the shard. Karathu, the big boy, big beefy boy, he grabs Gorum, fireman's carry style, and they GTFO. A few like rocks and stuff create like a little bit of a barrier that's a little bit too much for the demon as he's continued, but he kind of peeks through, says some stuff in some crazy hooga booga language, some crazy demonic infernal language. As he peeks through, his eyes probably get a little glowy and stuff, and just says these things, and they hear it almost as if it's in their heads. And then suddenly, as they are running, Sten begins to lose his eyesight. It's a curse. But now, just as Sten guided them through the mist earlier, now Karathu was like, I've got all this stuff going on. I'm a little emotional, but we gotta get out of here. And Sten looked out for me in the mist with the lava and stuff. He basically guides Sten, and he's a lot bigger than Sten, so he can really kind of move him around. He's just kind of weaving him through around these rocks and stuff. So what did you think? That was part 2. That's the Cultist Warren. Oh boy, we've got a lot to unpack. Gorum's paralyzed. Sten is blind. Karathu is bugging. He is enraged. He just, it's kind of his... I hate to say it's his fault, but it's his fault. He brought Bula along, and yeah, she lasted one whole section, and she's gone. That's the risk you run when you bring your buddy on a dangerous adventure. So, what did you think? That's part 2. There's 3 parts left. I will try and be more efficient with every single one, but that last part, I really wanted to dive in there because that was one of my favorite parts. For sure. And then also the orc encampment I also enjoyed. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you're digging the content. This way it lets me know that you're liking what I'm doing, and then more people can also experience this. So with that said, my name is Sacred with Sacred Art of Gaming, signing out. What's that? I'm gonna die on camera.